Greetings and welcome to another week of EDUC771. I would like to commend all of you for a job well done and completing all of the assignments and adding your comments to the discussion board.
Week 2 assignments. Watch Week 2 video. Watch the student assignment submission and inline grading view. Read and complete the CITI course. Complete Week 2 reflection. Read Chapter 2 and Appendix A and B in the textbook. And there are no Chapter 3 review problems this week. CITI course. As a reminder, when you get ready to log into the CITI course, select the Social Behavioral Research Basic course and complete the following modules. Number 1, Belmont Report and CITI course introduction. Number 2, Students and Research. Number 3, History and Ethical Principles. Number 4, Defining Research with Human Subjects. Number 5, the Regulations and the Social and Behavioral Sciences. Number 6, Assessing Risk in Social and Behavioral Sciences. Number 7, Informed Consent. Number 8, Privacy and Confidentiality. Number 9, Conflicts of Interest in Research involving human subjects. And number 10, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. The ethics and research topic this week is primarily covered in the online CITI course. Don't forget to upload a copy of your grade and the certificate to Blackboard by the due date. Click on the red link under Assignment in Blackboard to upload your assignment. Do not forget to watch the video on how to upload your assignment to Blackboard. The link to this video is located in the Week 2 Assignments folder.
Chapter 3 content basically covers historical background in unethical research practices, the Belmont Report, and ethical principles. Again, all of this is covered in the CITI course. Historical background. Formal procedures for the protection of participants and research grew out of some widely publicized abuses. One example was the Tuskegee syphilis study, which involved 600 men. 399 who had syphilis was in the experimental group and 201 in the control group. This experiment was designed to record the natural history of syphilis in blacks and was called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. Another experiment, called the Milgram experiment, involved 40 males between the ages of 20 and 50. This experiment was carried out by Stanley Milgram, which focused on the conflict between obedience to authority and personal conscience, in order to investigate whether Germans were particularly obedient to authority figures, as this was a common explanation for the Nazis' killings in World War II. The final experiment that we will discuss is called the Willowbrook experiment, which involved several mentally retarded children. This experiment was conducted in a school which housed mentally retarded children who were intentionally given hepatitis in an attempt to track the development of the viral infection. You can read more about each particular research from the attached link on the next slide. Please visit the following sites to read more about each research. After the Tuskegee syphilis study in the United States, the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research was created. From this, we have the Belmont Report of 1979, which establishes 3 basic ethical principles for the protection of human subjects. Number 1, respect for persons. Treating persons as an autonomous agent and protecting those with diminished autonomy. Number 2, beneficence. Minimizing possible harm and maximizing benefits. Number 3, justice. Distributing benefits and risks of research fairly. Thus, other policies and standards were built on these ethical principles, such as the Federal Policy for the Protection of Human Subjects, 1991. Other professional organizations, such as the American Educational Research Association, university boards, and organizational boards, set standards for the treatment of human subjects by their members, employees, and students. Thus, these standards must comply with federal policy. Most ethical issues and research are covered by 5 guidelines. Number 1, no harm to subjects. Researchers should avoid harming research participants. Although some research studies contain some risks, these risks should be disclosed and minimized. Number 2, informed consent. Participation in research should be voluntary. Thus, researchers must obtain informed consent. This can present some challenges when working with various populations. However, in research involving children, there are usually 2 levels of protection. The first is the assent or agreement from the child that is participating in the research, and the second is consent, which is the permission from the parent for the child to participate in a research study. Number 3, researchers' full disclosure of their identity. Researchers should disclose their method of research by providing a methodology to help their readers understand how the research was conducted, as well as any bias or political motives that could be accomplished. Number 4, privacy and confidentiality must be maintained for research participants unless it is voluntarily and explicitly waived. This should also be included in the informed consent agreement, which includes procedures and guidelines on how sensitive and confidential materials are handled. For example, after a research study is conducted, how is data secured? How is the data coded so participant identifiers are not disclosed? How long is the data kept? And how will it be destroyed? These are all items that are related to maintaining privacy and confidentiality. The last guideline, number 5, benefits should outweigh risks. Benefits from research projects should outweigh any foreseeable risks. Although some research studies contain some risks, these risks should be disclosed and minimized. The primary focus of research ethics is protecting subjects, which can be further broken down into 3 specific directions. Number 1, avoid harming research subjects. Number 2, obtain informed consent. Although this is difficult to define, make sure consent is given by persons who are competent, have consented voluntarily, are fully informed about research. There are some limitations to this, and persons that comprehend what they've been told. Honestly, sometimes full disclosure is impossible and does present many challenges, but make sure the language on the consent is clear, understandable, and adequately explains the study. There are a few examples of consent forms on pages 53 through 60 in your textbook. Also, some participants are unable to give consent. For example, college students may feel unable to refuse if their professor asks them to participate in an experiment. Children have two levels of protection, as I mentioned earlier, which are assent and consent. Special protection is also given to vulnerable populations, such as pregnant women, prisoners, and mentally disabled persons. The third and final direction in protecting human subjects is maintaining privacy and confidentiality during and after a study. This includes HEPA, waiver for authorization, and other documentation to protect the privacy of human subjects. Although protecting subjects is the primary role and focus of research ethics, it is also important for researchers to maintain honesty and openness. Thus, researchers are obligated to the scientific community, whose concerns are often regarding validity, to disclose their method of research, be honest in presenting their findings, and acknowledge any bias and political motives. It is also best or important for researchers to achieve valid results. The goal of validity, which is the pursuit of impartial knowledge, really justifies our claims to the use of human subjects to advance our knowledge in educational research. So, for example, although Baumrind rejected Milgram's external validity or the generalizability of his experiment, as she felt the laboratory was no place to study various degrees of obedience as a function of a particular experimental condition, they both agreed that a research study is in part justified by its valid findings, and if the findings are not valid, it is hard to justify any risk to human subjects or even any expenditure of time and resources. It is also important to encourage appropriate use of results, to consider the role of the organization that is supporting your research, and remember to acknowledge the source of research funding. Your Chapter 3 reflection is to select one of the publicized abuses in research from the previous slide or one that is mentioned in the text and discuss what you found as the most startling part of the research. Next, discuss what ethical principle or principles you believe were not followed in the particular research study you selected and why.